Good night, Dr. Bradbury.
Oh, good night.
Is there anything I can show you?
Good evening, Dr. Fothergill. How are the results?
Oh, fine, just fine. But for God's sake, will you stop trailing me? You have your work to do and I have mine. Now just leave me alone.
Good night, Peter.
As you can see, it's a very delicate situation.
Yes, so delicate, Mr. Fairchild, I'm not certain we can be of much use to you. Just let me see if I got it straight. Now, your company, thank you. Your company manufactures proprietary drugs of one sort and another. A wide range?
Oh, moderate, I'd say. We do a standard aspirin, a couple of antacids. You've probably seen them advertised. What you might call our bread and butter.
Yes.
Then we do a fairly full range of sedatives and hypnotics, some branded and some Codex, but no antibiotics at all. Antibiotics are an international battleground, and we're not all that pugnacious at Transco.
Right, no penicillin, go on.
Well, all these things I've mentioned so far combine to bring us in a steady profit. We've been manufacturing them for years. But on top of these, we've got a research department. And that costs us money, a good deal of money.
Until it comes up with something new that pays off.
Well, of course.
And has it so far?
Well,
I mean, any major breakthrough?
It's produced some very highly improved drugs. You know, I don't think that pharmaceutical research is as spectacular as you imagine, Mr. Sussman.
But on balance, your research department has paid for itself.
Oh, yes, particularly now, on this new and promising field. So promising, in fact, we cannot afford to be jumped by one of our competitors.
You mean you can't afford to have one of your staff selling information?
Precisely.
What makes you think anyone is selling information, Mr. Fairchild?
Well, I find that rather difficult to explain. You see, I don't want you to get the idea that our company is in a constant state of secret warfare with spies everywhere and that sort of nonsense. We have been known to buy each other drinks, you know, just occasionally. All the same, about 8 months ago, I could have sworn we were years ahead of our nearest competitor in the field of tranquilizers. When it came to the point where we weren't.
That sort of thing could happen by chance, surely.
Yes, I know. When you've been in the business about 20 years, as I have, you get to know what the other people are doing. You develop a sort of instinct for it.
Well, when you say selling information, do you mean notes, processes, samples, or what?
I wish I could...
Anything that an outsider like myself, for instance, could see and recognize as a secret. Anything on paper.
I cannot...
I mean, if somebody's leaving your works carrying a great briefcase full of written information, that's one thing. But if it's a question of a bloke meeting another bloke in a pub and saying, look here, old love, we're doing some very interesting work at Transco, and if you'd like to slip me the odd dollar, I'll tell you all about it. Well, that's going to be very difficult to track down.
Yes, I know. But that's exactly what may be going on. And you do realise there's nothing we can call the police in to investigate? Not yet, at any rate.
I suppose after your little tranquilizer affair, no one in the firm bought themselves a mink coat or a Bentley, did they?
Not that I know of. Believe me, if I had the faintest suspicion as to where to look, I wouldn't have called for your help. As it is, Mr. Suter, I'm not going to like bringing you into the works.
Well, you've no choice. You, or rather Transco Pharmaceuticals, will have to find me a job.
Oh, last.
I should leave it for the cleaners if I were you, Dr. Fothergill.
Yes, I'm sure you would. Just so happens I don't want to crunch up and down on broken glass all day, thank you.
You're running up quite a breakage list, aren't you?
Well, that's too bad, isn't it? Look, it's all very well for you and your private kingdom, but I'm just a little bit pushed for space myself.
I know. As I've said before, you better take it up with Mr. Fairchild. It's his department. There's a bit over there.
Well, this is our main research department. Not over large, as you can see.
How many square feet of working space?
About 2,500 all told, including Dr. Bradbury's private office and laboratory, which are through there. Here is Dr. Bradbury, our head of research.
Morning.
I'd like to meet Mr. Suter.
My pleasure, I assure you.
We're calling him in for several weeks to check the efficiency of our working methods. Operation research, you might say.
Well, if I may say so, you've sprung Mr. Suter on us as a bit of a surprise.
But my dear Helen, didn't you get my memo?
Memo? No, I don't recall it. Not that it matters. Mr. Suter is welcome, unheralded or not.
I expect you're making a note to the fact that our memoranda system needs overhauling.
Right, the written memorandum of the means of inter-office information flow is rather outmoded.
It is? Well, to do something about that, we cannot afford to be out of date at Transco.
This laboratory was out of date in 1930.
I think you exaggerate, Dr. Fothergill. I'd like you to meet Mr. Suter, who
He
is...
was an operations research consultant, I know, I heard. Well, I hope you're not going to stand at our shoulders with stopwatches, or I can assure you my rate of breakages will double.
Dr. Fothergill, I can assure you, you'll hardly notice I'm here. Where are you going to put me?
Oh, down here, I thought.
Well, position-wise, that's admirable.
Oh, good, good.
Yes, this is excellent. And I can see most of the game from here.
I hope I'm correct in assuming that this wasn't your idea.
I can assure you it wasn't. You're edgy about everything, aren't you, Peter? No doubt it's nothing more than a routine check. I wouldn't get too alarmed if I were you.
Now, one person breathing down my neck is bad enough. Two would be insufferable.
You know, I really might be able to streamline things a bit here.
I think perhaps you'd better stick to what you came for, you know.
Well, now, how long has Dr. Fothergill been here?
Oh, about 12 years, I suppose. Brilliant brain, but can be a bit of a trial at times.
And Dr. Bradbury?
Well, she came about 2.5 years ago as head of research. Remarkable background, remarkable woman.
Do they get on well together?
They do not. I think Peter expected to be made head of research instead of an outsider, and a woman at that. But, of course, it's quite out of the question.
Oh, well.
Well, I mean, the head of a department needs, well, how shall I say...
Through basic tact, perhaps.
Oh, I was going to say executive ability.
Instead of which he has a chip on the shoulder,
Yes,
eh?
precisely.
Well. Do I have an outside line?
Oh, this is through to the laboratory, and that is your outside
Good.
line. Yes, well, if there's anything else you want to know, don't hesitate to ask.
As I get you. All right, Ian. We'll see who we can dig up. Ian wants some advice and information for this Transco job about drugs.
Oh, what sort of drugs?
And I'm not quite sure. I think he wants to employ a consultant pharmacologist. It's going to be a bit difficult. Most of them will already be working for drug firms, I should think.
Yes.
Any ideas? Who'll be bright, love? I haven't got much time to think about it myself. I'm up to my ears in this gambling insurance scheme.
Well, I was just thinking about Jeff.
One of the boyfriends.
Yes. Jeff Barnes. He's in research, you see, and I know he's not working for any commercial pharmaceutical group.
Yes, I remember. He's the one who was always trying to drag you off to the Royal Institution instead of the theatre.
It is a bit like that. Actually, I'm rather fond of him.
Yes, never mind that. What does he do?
He's a research psychologist, really, but I know he uses drugs in his work.
Mm-hmm. Who does he work for?
More or less on his own. He's over here on a grant from some American foundation.
He might be our man. Look, would you sound him out for us? And see... No. You ring him up and invite him to have dinner with us this evening. On the firm, of course.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I've got a date with him myself tonight.
Oh, fine. You can come along, too, and then we can be really persuasive. Now, next thing. We've got to make a list of all the suppliers of scientific glassware in the London area, and for that I shall require the yellow directory, if you please. Come on, jump to it, jump to it. Where is it? Sure.
I suppose all this means something, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Not just camouflage.
Well, if it is, it'll take another Operation Research Man to expose me. This, new field of research you were talking about, can you give me details?
Is it essential for you to know?
Of course it is.
Only because it may take some time to explain.
I have time.
Well, as I told you, we make sedatives and other sorts of drugs, and this is merely an extension of that area. Psychiatric drugs for producing altered mental states. You must have heard of some of them. Mescaline, lysergic acid.
LSD?
Yes. Pretty open field at the moment, not much is known. But we think this group of drugs is going to become very important in the next few years. And so we're starting a basic research program. I say we're going to start a basic research program as soon as I can get money out of the board of directors. Basic research is always expensive.
You think you'll get the money?
Well, I hope so.
I gather you're personally very keen on this.
Oh, yes, I am. It's one of the reasons why I came to ask your help. You see, I want to get the security business cleared up before I put pressure on the board.
Another reason might be that your wife is George Pete's daughter. And he's chairman of Pete and Wybrow, your competitors.
I'm fully aware of that, Mr. Souter.
Don't take offense. You don't want me to fall down on the job, do you?
I knew it would be pointed out sooner or later.
I'm just setting the record straight.
You're quite right, of course. The real reason I came to ask your help was my wife's family connections with our competitors. And I realize, of course, the mere fact that I called you in doesn't necessarily free me from suspicion.
It does not.
That's why I want you to clear the whole thing up as quickly as you can. You must agree my position here is a very delicate one.
Well, just as well I know. Now, I want to go around the whole laboratory in detail tomorrow morning, right?
Oh, ready?
Do I have unlimited access?
Well, let's say I hope you'll be as tactful as possible. Some of our staff are on unusual contracts. Dr. Bradbury is one of them.
Oh?
Well, good staff are very hard to get these days, you know, and very few of them like people looking over their shoulders. So please exercise all the tact you can. Otherwise, we may have a wave of resignations.
That would relieve the whole problem, wouldn't it?
There's no point in our handling this ourselves. I've told you that over and over again.
We shall lose money if we don't, Maynard. I've told you that over and over again.
We won't lose. We're selling the idea we won't make as much, but we won't lose. And there's a big difference. And it's a difference which has got me where I am.
We won't find anyone who's ready to go into the field Transco are considering.
I'm not so sure.
Oh.
Is what they propose to do at Transco's valuable, commercially valuable? What have you been told?
Without doubt, it's valuable.
Well, then somebody will be ready to buy. All I want from our Transco contact is information. Let's just be agents, Henry. We buy and sell information, nothing else. That way we don't get into trouble.
All right, all right.
Good. Then do me a favor. Talk nicely to your contact and do what I say.
All right, Maynard. I'll do as you say.
Henry, you get more sense every day. Brains you've always had. Sense you're learning.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I had no idea he was going to come up here and just take over like this.
That's all right,
Oh,
sir.
So, this
Okay,
collection
I'll
goes
get
back
coffee.
2.5 years or so. These are orders for chemical reagents, and these are for ordinary glassware, and this is for special glassware, stuff that had to be made up to order and so on. Mostly signed by the people who ordered each item. Fothergill, in most cases.
That might be some help.
Yes, but supposing someone was following his own line of research, would he necessarily go to the same suppliers as the company for his equipment?
Oh, I should think so. Well, that way he'd get the company discount.
Yeah, so if he went to another firm, that might mean he didn't want Transco to know what he was up to, eh?
Most of this stuff is pretty universally used, you know. I mean, it doesn't really tell us what they were doing.
Yes, mescaline and lysergic acid is as far as I've gone.
Ego-destroying drugs.
Huh?
They alter personality temporally, cause odd and unusual states of mind, even make you see visions, that sort of thing.
Great.
I'll show you something.
Yep.
Here, take a look at this.
What's that?
It's from Animal Research. Cats, as you can see.
Good grief.
Yeah, well, a few minutes earlier, that was quite a normal cat. A few hours later, it will be normal, too. When this shot was taken, it had just been given a small dose of one of the more unusual drugs in the sort of field we're discussing.
Yeah.
And it's frightened of a plain, ordinary mouse.
So this is the sort of thing Transco are at, eh? And this is what their competitors are after.
Right first time.
Poor Jeff, have you finished picking your brains yet?
I haven't started yet.
It's all right. It's a fair exchange.
I've just had dinner on the company. Food for thought, you might even say.
You just like giving lectures, never mind the dinner.
The point is, Jeff, I'm going to have to go over the whole Transco setup to see what I can dig up. It's not going to be all that easy, either.
Why not?
Why, everybody's so damn touchy. I can't just go over their heads and barge in. Not if I'm to remain undercover as an efficiency expert. And nobody loves efficiency experts.
They come here, they tell us what to do, they take our time, they interfere, they think they own the place.
Precisely. Now, what I want to do is to find out if anybody at Transco has been using equipment or chemicals, glassware, anything at all that doesn't appear on these lists here. That might give us something to start from.
Well, it seems to me rather a long way round.
Yeah, I know, but the whole thing's so nebulous. There's no direct action I can take, like asking pointed questions without warning our men that we're onto him.
I see.
No.
Thank you, dear.
So what I want from you is some idea of what to look for, because at the moment, I haven't a clue.
All right, I'll do whatever I can.
Good fellow.
I take it that we'll be here till long past midnight.
Well, why worry? You're with your date.
Some date.
Oh, Dr. Bradbury,
Yes?
could I have a word with you, please?
What?
Well, it's about this efficiency man, Suter, or whatever his name is. I found him terribly hard to put up with. Do you know he wants to examine all the equipment I've been using for the last 6 months?
Oh? Why?
I don't know. He says it's something to do with streamlining or something, a lot of rubbish. I can't stand people who talk in a private jargon anyway.
Oh, this suit has been upsetting your work. We'd better take the matter to the executive.
Of course, it's all very well for you in there. You can keep him out of your hair. Well, look, please, just keep him out of mine, too, because I can't stand this continual cross-examination.
I think you've every right to be annoyed, Peter. I'll see what I can do about it.
Just having him around the place irritates me.
No. You mustn't let it raise your blood pressure. Oh, by the way, Peter, I've had a word with the project board. Looks as though I might be able to do something about Wednesday.
Can you get it?
Jeff? And what are you up to?
My dear Heather, all we want Jeff to do is to look at some photographs that Ian has been taking over the last couple of days.
I take it that you know the time.
Late, I expect. Are you doing something tonight?
I was supposed to be going to the cinema with Jeff.
Oh, well, I've got a cinema here. Different picture, that's all. You can still be with him.
I swore 3 months ago that I'd stop mixing my private life with my office life. Why didn't I stick to it?
I'm very glad you didn't. You know, I don't know which I find more valuable, you or your friends.
Oh, thank you. What are those pictures, anyway?
Incriminating evidence, we hope.
You're working late, Doctor? I thought I had the floor myself.
So I noticed. Amateur photographer?
It was just part of the job.
Tell me, how are photographs of our laboratory at night going to help you in your analysis?
Dr. Fothergill, I've noticed you'd resent interference in your work. I feel much the same about mine.
Fair enough.
Night's the only time I can get the floor to myself without asking everybody to leave. I try to respect your wish not to be in the way.
Oh, well, thank you for that at least. Tell me, are these charts part of your analysis too, or shouldn't I ask?
My first breakdown, yeah. I'll be on my way. Good night.
Breakdown.
Any good?
Nope, not enough detail. There seems to be some sort of shelf here, though. If there's a closer shot of that, it might help.
Well, hang on a moment. There's a closer one coming up. Yeah, hot from the press.
Might at least have tried it on blotting paper.
Oh, I'm sorry, matey. How's that, Jeff? Any better?
Hard to tell. These reagent bottles, they might be some help. What's she supposed to be working on officially?
Barbiturates. So the requisition forms say.
That's interesting, because here she's using gallic acid, quite a lot of it too, and some amino acids, I think.
What does all that mean?
Well, gallic acid is a starting point in a lot of these synthetic drugs. The mescaline group we were talking about.
We know that Transco is working on that line anyway.
Fothergill was, but not Dr. Bradbury, or not according to management.
Maybe, but according to these pictures, she is.
Then if she's following Fothergill's line of research, she may be onto something that Transco don't know about. And that's enough to move on.
What did you have in mind?
Well, it's about time we started laying some ambushes, and they don't need to be too subtle.
Just to get her into the open, you mean? And if she's blameless?
That's just a chance we'll have to take.
Any ideas on how we're going to go about it?
My dear, I always have ideas.
Oh, yes, I know, but go on.
Well, one of us had better be in the market for secret information. And that lucky person's going to be,
Me?
Me? Oh.
You're the one with the technical know-how.
Oh, look, Jeff, don't feel that you've got to.
All right, well, I wouldn't mind having a crack.
Could be a bit tricky, though.
What, dangerous?
Depends. You haven't seen her.
All right, count me in.
Good fellow. Now, the first thing we've got to do is arrange a secret rendezvous between you and Helen Bradbury.
What do I have to do, wear a false beard?
I think you'll do much better as Jeff Barnes, unshaven, independent scientist, but interested in the advancement of science in an underhand way.
The trouble in cases like this...
You were saying, Henry?
I was saying, the trouble in cases like this is that one never knows what one's buying.
Well, of course not, or there'd be no point in buying it.
You know what I mean, Maynard.
Do I? You know, this Transco protege of yours has a rather interesting history in independent research before coming to this country.
Oh?
Yes.
Private research is unusual these days. It's all too expensive. You've got to be an organization man or nothing.
Perhaps your protege would like to get out of the world of commerce and back to private research again.
Precisely. If someone sold out once, what's to stop it happening again?
What indeed?
More wine?
No, thank you.
And I've read quite a few of your earlier papers, too, Doctor.
I'm very flattered, Mr. Barnes.
And I'm impressed. Particularly the two on the reaction dynamics of the ornithine cycle. I remember that not many people agreed with you.
Your interest in my work is most flattering, Mr. Barnes, but that's not the object of this meeting, is it?
No, it isn't.
Good. I was beginning to feel uneasy. What do you want?
Your price for information about Transco's new program on synthetic hallucinogens.
My price?
Yes?
Oh,
Dr. Bradbury, we've both been around. Why kid ourselves?
I think you'd better leave, Mr. Barnes.
Look, Doctor, what I want
Get
from...
out.
Sure. Should you change your mind, call me. Here's my phone number. Good night, Doctor. Obviously, she's as innocent as I am.
That was a chance you just had to take, love. I mean, you knew it was a long shot.
I feel like a heel now. I don't know whether you know it, but I genuinely admire that woman's work. Some of her papers have been quite exceptional.
Yes, but being brilliant doesn't necessarily clear her of suspicion.
I know. But I think the whole thing was ill-advised. She can't be crooked.
She can, you know. It might all be an act. After all, women are rather good at that.
Good morning, Mr. Suter.
Oh, good morning.
How did your pictures turn out?
Pictures? Oh, those, yes.
Yes, those. Did they tell you what you wanted to know?
Oh, I haven't had them back from head office yet. The graphics matters are terribly slow at times.
Are they? That means you're going to be with us a few more days, I suppose.
Well, I'm afraid so. Oh, I know I'm terribly much under everybody's feet, but I do have my brief to work to, too, you know.
Brief? Why must you people always talk as though you're sorting out the Battle of Alamein?
Habit, I'm afraid. Is Dr. Bradbury in?
I don't know.
Dr. Fothergill, one or two things I'd like to ask you. Could you come to my office for a minute or two?
I'm afraid I don't know what you're getting at, Dr. Bradbury.
I want to know if you've asked anyone else from your organization to contact me.
Why should we do that?
I don't know. It was a possibility. I pride myself on being cautious enough to dislike coming here. I felt I had to in the circumstances.
Do I understand that some third party has approached you with an offer?
Yes.
Who?
That doesn't matter, as long as it wasn't from you.
I don't like the sound of this, Maynard.
No, you wouldn't, Henry. You've been very sensible and straightforward to tell us about this, my dear.
Oh, I'd just like to know the methods of the people I'm dealing with.
Of course. And what are you going to do about it?
I don't know yet. I don't know.
Goodbye, Dr. Bradbury. You'll keep us informed. You're going to tell me you don't think she's to be trusted, is that it, Henry?
That's not my department, Maynard. It's yours.
You're quite right. Well, I think she's trustworthy, but nervous. Nervous ladies upset me. We're going to have to finish this deal as fast as we can.
What it comes down to is this. Do all your orders for chemicals and glassware go through the firm's normal channels?
I've told you before, I don't see what possible concern that is of yours.
Oh, Dr. Fothergill, I'm just trying to find the position down stockwise, that's all.
Is that all? You know, I'm beginning not to be so sure.
Now, what do you mean by that?
Well, nobody told me I was expected to answer your questions, particularly the sort of questions you've been asking me for the last hour. Anybody'd think I was running a chemical apparatus shop on the side or something.
Well, such things have been known to happen before.
Knightsbridge 2149?
Mr. Barnes, please.
Speaking.
Helen Bradbury.
Dr. Bradbury, what can I do for you?
Surely it's what can I do for you, Mr. Barnes?
All right.
Where can we talk and when?
Tonight? At my apartment?
The address on your card.
That's right.
All right, after dinner, about 10. Oh, and just one thing, Mr. Barnes. I take it we'll be quite alone. As it is, two's a crowd. Goodbye.
Poor Jeff. You're in it up to your neck now.
Nonsense. I haven't had so much fun for ages.
Look, I hope you realize just how serious all this is.
To you lot, maybe. To me, I'm not so sure it isn't all a game. Maybe I'm doing it just to impress you.
Oh, I'm impressed, all right. Except that you don't even begin to know how to tell a lie. I can see straight through you. And if she's got any wit, she will too.
Great.
What time's she supposed to be coming?
Well, I said around 10 o'clock. I hope she sits in the right place.
Do you know what he's been asking me? What do I do in my spare time? Do I perform any outside research? Where do I get my chemical apparatus from? Good grief! The man will be asking me how I vote next.
I'm sure Mr. Suter only asks questions he thinks will be of value to his analysis.
Analysis? Do you know I was in here last night doing a full-scale photographic reconnaissance?
Really?
Yes, really. Now, look. Perhaps you'll kindly deflect him onto our charming and able head of research, who I'm sure has time to cope with this sort of thing. I certainly haven't.
Dr. Bradbury's as busy as any of us.
What, with all the administration to do? You must be joking, of course. I'm sure she's absolutely rushed off her feet.
Dr. Fothergill, I find your attitude quite extraordinary.
Look, do you see all this? Does it look a bit overcrowded? Well, it is overcrowded, and it's been overcrowded ever since 1950, during which time I produced for this company at least 180 reports and synthesized at least 3 subjects of proved value. And it's still overcrowded. You don't need an efficiency man to point something out to you that's staring you in the face.
I know, but in 6 months'
In
time...
6 months' time, it's unlikely that I shall still be here. You can get Dr. Bradbury and your efficiency man to take over this bench and work on it for themselves. Well, good morning.
Doctor, won't you come in, please?
Evening, Mr. Barnes.
Can I take your...
Well, I'm glad to see that somebody makes a good thing out of research.
Well, I find it profitable in one way or another. Here, let me take your coat.
No, thank you. I'd rather keep it on. I don't intend to stay very long.
Can I get you a drink or something?
No, thank you.
I'm glad you changed your mind, by the way.
Let's get to the point, shall we? You said you had a proposition I might be interested in. I'd like to know what it is.
Oh, you're very direct, Doctor. That's unusual in the sort of circles I move in.
The circles of high finance?
Would you like me to show you around the place?
I'm so sorry. You must think me terribly rude.
Not at all. Sensible. Here, won't you sit down?
Well, I repeat, Mr. Barnes, you said you had a proposition to make to me. What is it?
Well, you realize, of course, that I can only talk in rather general terms until I know a little more precisely what it is you have to offer us.
Us? Ah, yes, your principles. Well, to speak more precisely, Mr. Barnes, I have devised and perfected not one, but several quite new ideas in psychopharmacology. You know, of course, the rough area in which I work, and you know that to all intents and purposes it's unexplored and therefore potentially profitable. The alteration of personality by means of drugs has always held a certain fascination for me, Mr. Barnes.
But aren't Transco working on something similar, commercially?
You're very well informed, I see. As a matter of fact, they are. My private capacity, I've taken the experiment a step further.
Without Transco's knowledge? Oh, I'm fascinated, Doctor.
Yeah, I thought you would be. There are, of course, very few books with more than a passing reference to the subject.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I've come across a good deal of information at one time or another. Are you sure you won't take your coat off?
I believe I will, thank you. It's a relief to deal with someone who at least knows what he's talking about.
Well, thank you. Look, I don't oppress you, but I could do with a drink myself.
Thank you.
Good. Scotch?
Mm-hmm.
You take soda?
Yes.
Seems to me, Mr. Souter, you've been going outside your brief.
I warned you at the outset I couldn't lay down a straight plan of action and stick to it. It's not as if somebody's pinching spanners. All I can tell you is we found out enough to make a move.
Oh, what do you propose now?
I want to have a thorough look inside Dr. Bradbury's private laboratory.
It's quite impossible.
Otherwise, my work here will have been a complete waste of time.
You do realize it's within her rights to resign if she finds out?
Why?
We had to make a lot of concessions for Dr. Bradbury's service, one of which was the key to her own laboratory.
That's awkward. I'd hate her to leave just yet.
I don't understand your problem. You say you got hold of the tape.
I did.
Well, then there's no evidence, is there?
Oh, no evidence, no, but obviously I'm being watched.
My dear Dr. Bradbury, does that matter? You've hardly committed a crime yet, certainly not a detectable
Oh,
one.
I don't know. I don't know how much... Well, that doesn't matter. The important thing is to get this business over with. Are you ready to close the deal, or do I have to go elsewhere?
Can you? I thought you damaged your alternative buyer.
Oh, I still have useful contacts, you know.
That won't be necessary. We're quite ready to buy. Now, if you'll remove your process notes, plus details of any essential chemical reactions involved, I'll discuss business with you.
Very well. I warn you, I can't have any delays.
Shall we say tomorrow in that case?
Good. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Taking risks, I admit it.
She's worried, Maynard. Far more worried than I'd expect.
Do you think so, Henry?
Yes, I do. I wish we were more certain what we were buying. I think there's more behind this than we bargained for.
You'll give me an ulcer, Henry. Don't. I have one already.
Oh, matey. Oh, dear. Well, I'm sorry I let you in for that.
It's all right. Just rather tender cranial abrasions. Learning the hard way.
Oh, you're a good fellow.
Fine. It's great for you, isn't it? But Jeff was knocked unconscious, weren't you?
I was, with a piece of sculpture I've been meaning to get rid of. The moral being, don't put off tomorrow till what you can throw out today. Oh, I'm sorry I lost up the tape business, by the way.
Oh, well, that doesn't really matter. She's given herself away, and that's what counts. I've got to have a look inside that lab of hers.
They won't like it.
They won't know.
What, break-in?
Sure.
Well, it sounds rather drastic just for a bit of commercial fraud.
Well, I have a shrewd suspicion there's more to it than just selling Transco's business secrets.
Suitor coming back?
I don't know. He hasn't put in his preliminary report yet, so I presume he is.
Pity. Managed to disrupt the work of my department almost completely. Then you know that.
I also know you haven't given him the fullest cooperation he wanted, Dr. Bradbury.
If you mean that I managed to keep his stopwatch and tape measure out of here, then just say so. Didn't think a work study was necessary this side of the door. If you think differently, then perhaps you'll give me official notification to that effect.
I don't think it need go that far.
I hate to admit it, but I entirely sympathize with Fothergill where Suitor is concerned. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be getting home. Mr. Fairchild, may I lock up now?
cylinders. Miles never mentioned those.
I'm afraid my partner isn't here this morning, Mr. Fairchild. As a matter of fact, I don't know where he is myself.
Well, he's certainly...
Excuse me. Heather, yes. Well, look... Yes, Heather, hold all calls for the moment, will you please? Thank you.
Well, he's certainly not at Transco.
What's the trouble? Maybe I can help.
Help? I'm afraid you people haven't been any help whatsoever.
Mr. Fairchild, from what Ian has told me, I think you'll find that he's collected more evidence against Dr. Bradbury than you may think.
Is that so?
Yes, and as far as I can make out, he'll soon be having a talk with your Dr. Bradbury.
Well, he'll have to find her first, I'm afraid.
Oh?
This was on my desk this morning. In effect, her resignation. Mr. Hugh Smith, your firm has made a thorough mess of the entire situation. Dr. Bradbury is gone and taken her knowledge with her. The very thing I hired you to prevent.
Have you searched her office?
It's locked. They say she was in there early this morning and left before any of us arrived.
So she probably took her notes with her.
I expect she took those last night. I noticed she had this suitcase with her. But how could I do anything to prevent her without forcing the issue? Well, how could I?
So Ian's hunch may have been right after all.
Ought you to have taken this?
No, but I did. What is it?
I don't know. No label, and I'm not familiar with the color coding.
Well, you never mentioned gas cylinders when we were discussing what you might be doing. And there's no record of those on our stock list. I checked.
Well, there's none of the commoner gases. Oxygen, hydrogen, CO2, that sort of thing. I'll see what I can find. Pete's sake, what the hell do you think you're doing? You're gonna look pretty damn stupid if that bit... What's the matter? God.
Leave me alone.
Ian,
Leave me alone.
come on.
Leave me.
Come on, hand it over. Come on. There's a good guy. Come on. Hand it over.
Yes. This is what we're looking for.
Good. Then perhaps we can make our financial arrangements immediately.
Why?
Why? So I'm leaving the country as soon as I can, that's why.
Are you? You didn't tell us this before.
I didn't see that it was relevant.
So you're going back to private research?
If it matters, yes. I was a fool to go to work for a firm in the first place, Transco or anyone else.
But you needed the money.
I needed facilities, equipment. I thought I'd get them if I joined some sort of organization. Of course, I was wrong. Spent the last 2 years putting sedatives together in different combinations. A child of 4 could have done it.
And now you're going back to set up on your own?
Yes.
With the money that we shall give you for this?
It'll do for a start.
Very reasonable. Very sensible. Don't you think so, Henry? But it makes it a bit awkward as far as we're concerned.
Awkward. Why?
And I'll explain it to you if you like, Dr. Bradbury. You see, you've been under contract at Transco for the last 2.5 years.
So?
A contract which stipulates that any discovery you make while working for them is their property automatically.
Yes, of course, but you knew that.
Yes, but they don't know about this little sideline of yours, do they?
No.
Which is admirable from our point of view, and yours. But there is a snag. Now, if you sold this idea to us, and then went on working for Transco as if nothing had happened, that would be fine. We, and when I say we, you'll understand I'm not referring to myself, but to our purchasers, could present and market your idea as if it were our own. Fair enough?
Naturally, I assumed so.
Unless, of course, Transco could ever prove that it was your work done while you were contracted to them, in which case there'd be a lawsuit and they'd win.
Now, how would they find out?
Well, if you were going to be somewhere where we could keep an eye on you, they wouldn't find out. Even if you left them and we found you a job, that would be fine. But if you're simply vanishing from the scene, well, then I'm afraid I will have to ask you to clear out your entire laboratory at Transco.
Take too much time.
It will be time well spent. They must never find out what you've been working on after you go, so that they'll never be able to claim it as theirs. You see what I'm getting at?
Yes, but I've already left. I resigned this morning.
But you didn't clear out your laboratory?
No, of course I didn't. There wasn't time. There wasn't time.
Then I'm afraid our contacts wouldn't be interested in buying this.
What do you want me to do?
Jeff, what's the matter with you?
A slight accident. Ian got a whiff of some rather unpleasant gas.
Yes, but what happened?
Well, he found a cylinder of the stuff in Dr. Bradbury's lab, brought it back here and opened the valve. Well, I don't know what for. Maybe he wanted to know what it smelt like.
You are an idiot.
You remember the picture of the cat I showed you? Well, that's what happened to you. You know that he tried to slug me?
You never told me that cat was gassed, though.
It wasn't. The sort of stuff they gave to Pussy would be, by injection. Apparently, Helen Bradbury has now found a way of making it up as a gas, a dispersant.
What's the special advantage in that?
Well, it could be useful. You could mix it with anesthetics, use it in psychiatric interviews. It's quick and convenient.
Or it could be used as a poison gas. Well, couldn't it?
It could. That would have military applications. Here, we've got to get hold of Dr. Bradbury.
Yes, but Fairchild says that she's resigned and cleared most of her stuff out with her.
Well, I've had the telephonist at Transco trace all her calls. They'd know whom she's been contacting.
I tell you, Maynard, she's scared. Scared stiff.
Nervous, I admit, but then so are you.
Oh, you won't listen, will you?
Always to you, Henry, always.
You think she's in that state because she's leaving the company and doing a midnight flit? It's more than that. You know, the difference between you and me is that I've really read this stuff. You haven't.
What do you mean? It's worth the money, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it's worth it. In fact, she's given us good value. Some of the ideas in here could be dynamite.
Good, splendid. Then since we're not manufacturing it, who cares?
But don't you realize...
Oh. Yes?
Mr. Souter to see you, Mr. Maynard.
Who?
He said he's a security advisor.
Oh, send him in.
Very well, sir.
Mr. Souter, my partner, Mr. Thorne. What can we do for you?
Mr. Maynard, I'll come straight to the point. I'm looking for Dr. Helen Bradbury, and I'm sure you know where I can find her.
What makes you so sure?
Well, I've reason to think she's been selling commercial secrets belonging to her company.
I hardly feel
And
that we
also,
have...
I think she's been trying to get rid of information which may be covered by the Official Secrets Act as being of potential military importance.
What?
Of course, if you want to take the risk...
Maynard, Henry, I'll give you the same advice. Be careful what you say. Very well. I believe Mr. Souter may be right.
Henry.
I told you. I've read it and you haven't. And I don't want to touch it. Do you know that Dr. Bradbury may be leaving the country?
No, but it doesn't surprise me. What I want to know is where she is now.
You'll try and stop her?
Of course.
Then I think we can help you. After all, we've done nothing wrong.
I've got the other one, Dr. Bradbury. Sorry to be so rough.
What are you going to do?
Call the police?
I haven't committed a crime.
Well, that's arguable. You resigned from Transco this morning. Breaking and entering is a crime, Dr. Bradbury.
Oh, no. No.
What's going to happen to her? Well, it's awful to think of a brain like that going to waste.
I don't know. If she has committed a crime against the government, it's going to be very difficult to prove.
Ian, one thing puzzles me very much.
Oh, what's that?
Well, Jeff said that some of that stuff was potentially dangerous. But how could you know if it was covered by the Official Secrets Act? I mean, you don't know the difference between an aspirin or a mothball.
My dear, specialized knowledge such as your friend Jeff has is all very well, but it doesn't solve cases. For that, you need intuition and a seventh sense.
Oh, and what's that?
Never trust a woman.